I thought the 2020 season was great. New tracks, new podiums, and new winners. Sometimes. In fact, I thought it was such a good season, I'd like to see it repeated 1,000,000 times. And so, armed with nothing more than some inspiration, a free afternoon, and an unhealthy disregard for good coding practices, I did just that. If you don't care about how the simulation works and you just want to see some results, skip ahead to the time on the screen. Using only data from a 2020 season, each driver gets an average finishing position and a standard deviation of their results. They also get a retirement likelihood based on how many races they DNF'd. Unless you're Lewis Hamilton, in which case you're given a retirement rating by me, because having a 0% retirement rate is ridiculous and would break everything. With the data we now have, it's time to simulate a single race. Welcome to the Pirelli Heineken Aramco Made in East Anglia Grand Prix d'A. We go through all 20 of our drivers individually. Firstly, we flip a coin to determine if they should get to start the race. For various reasons, 5 drivers missed races in 2020, whether that be from an unnamed illness or an unaccommodating exhaust system. As such, there is a 1% chance, roughly, that a driver will not start any given race. Next, we flip another coin for each driver, this one based on their retirement likelihood that we calculated earlier. This likelihood also varies slightly from race to race. If a driver passes both of these coin flips, they get their rating. Their rating is a random number produced by a Monte Carlo simulation using stuff we calculated earlier. Once every driver has gone through this process, we're left with 20 drivers with either a DNS, a retirement, or a numerical score. These are then sorted, and we have the results for a single race. This is then repeated 17 times, each time with a new random value for the driver ratings, giving new results each time. It was at this point I wrote a function to generate these Wikipedia-esque tables to show how results for the season were, because just staring at Python lists was starting to provoke feelings of intense sadness. This single season simulation was then run 1,000,000 times. The first thing to look at was who wins championships. Well, exactly who you'd expect. 981,048 times, to be exact. Second most was Bottas. Despite Max having a better average position, his retirement rate was just too high to challenge for second. At this point, it's also useful to look at the overall number of wins. It's interesting to see here that every driver managed at least a couple of wins, and before you say that a Haas would never win, bear in mind this is 17 million races. Anything really can happen. At this point, viewers with exceptional mental maths, or a calculator and a pause button, have noticed that 56 championships are unaccounted for. Impressively, Perez manages to win 49 of these. With a real season hamstrung by missed races, his stats are strong enough to carry him through in the simulations where the big three struggle. Ricciardo manages 2 wins, Albon 4, and Leclerc just 1. Whilst a lot of these outlier seasons are interesting, Leclerc's is something else. Although the season starts strongly and he benefits from a few Hamilton DNSs, the season really gets close towards the end. And ultimately, he grabs the championship with the final race of the season. A race he wins, and Hamilton didn't even start. But what about the Constructors' Championships? We'll start from the other end this time. Williams won 0, Haas also 0, Alfa, Renault and Ferrari also 0, but Racing Point managed 4, and McLaren 2. Feel free to pause and have a look at these seasons, some of them are pretty interesting when you follow them through. So that's 6 titles accounted for, but what about the other 999,994? Well, Red Bull win 0.085% of them, leaving the final 999,141 titles for Mercedes. These simulations do a really good job of showing just how strong they are. And to further labour the point, I ran a search to find the biggest win by any team in all of the seasons. Here it is. Mercedes win the championship by 452 points, with second place Renault not really ever getting close. I ran a similar search for the driver's title and found this season where Hamilton wins in the 12th race, which in a 17 race season is pretty impressive. But how about when a win isn't quite so dominant, or not even a win? There are a few hundred two-way draws, but incredibly only 2 three-way draws, both featuring exactly who you'd expect. This one in particular seems particularly spectacular, with Bottas finishing one position away from a crucial point, whilst Lewis and Max finish 1-2 in the final race. As a last little thing, I wanted to look into the reliability in retirements. First, the fewest retirements in a season was just 26, in this incredibly cleanly driven season. And then we had this season on the other end of the spectrum, with 89 retirements overall. There were plenty of races with no retirements, but only one with 13. Race 2 in this season held the record for the highest number of retirements in a single race. I'm sure that would have been an interesting one. Staying on the topic of retirements, we need to talk about Kevin. His digital counterpart managed something pretty incredible. Even in this alternate universe of 1 million concurrent seasons, there was still a 1 in 500 chance of this happening. 16 retirements in a season of 17 races. The worst season any driver had out of all 20 million attempts. His one finish that season? He came last. 1 million simulated seasons. Confirming what we already know about Hamilton and Mercedes, but also providing some insight into the vast unlikelihood of anything else happening. Of course, there are thousands of different things that could be analysed in this data, but for now I'm going to leave it there, because this has taken far longer than I was expecting it to, and it's time to move on to something new. I hope you've enjoyed this, maybe learned something, probably not. Contrary to what the upload schedule of this channel looks like, I do make quite a lot of these videos, and I'm planning on releasing them more in the future, so consider subscribing and see what unrelated tangent I take next.